I reckon there are about 3 reasons why car manufacturers offer smaller engines in some of their vehicles. The first is to save a bit of fuel. Yeah, right. The second would be to run the ball back up the field to some of the new Chinese utes that are hitting the market. And the third reason is to attract the hearts and minds, but mainly the wallets, of the fleets and the fleet managers out there. And when you look at the Mazda BT-50 in excess form now, with its OH&S war paint on, I reckon that's exactly what's going on here. There are 4 variants of the BT-50 that now carry the XS badge and therefore the smaller engine. There are 2 4x2 models, a single cab chassis and a dual cab pickup, while in 4x4 form there's a cab chassis and a pickup, both with the dual cab layout. Compared with the bigger engine BT-50, the smaller engine and XS trim is set to save you about $2,500, and that's what will attract the fleet buyers, or so Mazda hopes. Standard gear also reflects the cut price sticker, and you get steel wheels on all but the 4x4 dual cab pickup, which gets alloys, cloth trim, a smaller info screen, and even manual air conditioning. Check out the written review at carsguide.com.au for the full details on pricing and specification. Flexibility is the key to the XS's design, with Mazda laying out loads of factory options to make the vehicle appealing to working fleets and tradies. So you can choose from Mazda approved and warranted canopies, bull bars, wheel arch flares, snorkels, drop side trays, awnings, tub drawer systems, dual battery setups, and even pre-wired circuits for work lights and emergency beacons. Beyond that, we're talking at a completely conventional ladder chassis with a body on top utility. I reckon this cab chassis version of the XS is going to be really popular. Now, you might have looked at tradie trucks and thought, well, why would anyone want a big ugly drop side tray like this? I mean, everything in it's got to be tied down each time because there's no tonneau, and that's what the law says now. You can't have unrestrained things in the tray. It's high, so you've got to lift big heavy loads up onto it, and after a few thousand Ks, generally these things rattle like crazy. But on the upside, they offer a load area that is flat. Yes, it's high, but it's flat. There's no wheel arches encroaching on it, and that means you can get lots of stuff in here. Also, the drop sides mean that you can drop them down and load this with a forklift, which for a lot of businesses is absolutely essential. And also, if it gets too banged up over the years, you throw it away and put another one on. Inside the BT-50, it's pretty familiar stuff. If you've driven a Mazda BT-50, you'll know what you're sitting in. There are, however, some concessions to pulling a few dollars out of this car, starting with the cloth trim on the seats. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. You don't need leather in a workhorse, let's face it. I also like the fact that this car's got a perfectly conventional park brake. I know the electronic ones are supposed to be an improvement. Fundamentally, I don't think they are. I like the old-fashioned stuff. Same with the T-bar gear shifter. There's no separate fiddly park button. There's no column thing to twist and turn and buttons that light up. It's just a conventional old T-bar auto, and the car is the better for that. However, there are some other things. The analog gauges, they look a bit old-fashioned, but they really work well. And I'm one of those guys that just likes a needle that points at how fast I'm going. Really? That's what it needs to do, and that's what this does. However, the center screen with the info between the speedo and the tacho is tiny, and as a result, the numbers and letters that it displays are also tiny. If you use glasses to read, you may find that it's actually indecipherable. There's also some fairly spurious info. It's giving me at the moment my instantaneous fuel economy, but it's given it to me in kilometres per litre, which is pretty useless. We all think in litres per 100 kilometres, so that's backward. It's also showing me my current throttle position as a percentage. That is even more useless. However, it's got displays for the usual stuff like your trip meters and things like that. But again, they're tiny. So unless you've got really good short vision, this screen's going to be a bit of a blur at times. Ditto the center screen. There's nothing wrong with it, and okay, the characters are big enough, but the screen itself is quite small. In an age where we associate big touchscreens with luxury, this car clearly is built down to a price. Will it bother the guy who's got to drive it for 8 hours a day as part of a road crew? Probably not. So no harm done there. No harm, no foul. The seats are quite good. I like the way that the driver's seat feels. The driving position's good, and you do get tilt and reach adjustable steering column, which you don't always in utes, and certainly not at this price point. The rear seat is actually better than a lot of them too. The rear seat backrest is at a sensible angle, so it's actually comfortable for bigger people. The only catch is there's not quite enough headroom if you're wearing a big 10-gallon hat in the back. But you know, for everyone else, and you know, you're not going to put adults in the back of this thing for any length of time, unless you're some kind of sadist or they're masochists. It's up to you. So there's, you know, overall, I think this car is pretty well done. It's pretty well laid out. Again, the price thing means that there are a few things missing. You don't get climate control air. You do get air vents in the back seat, which is nice, but it's standard air conditioning, not set and forget climate control. There's also a fair bit of hard plastic in evidence, and that again is just keeping cost out of the thing. And if it means though that you can build a car that is price friendly for fleets, then you know that's just collateral damage, and my advice would be live with it. Interestingly, this isn't the first time Mazda has downsized the engine to produce the cut price XS model. That was launched in about 2021 initially, and it was available with a 1.9 litre engine. This is a 2.2 litre engine, so the small engine BT-50 now has a bigger engine. Stay with me. In any case, it's still well short of the 3 litre engine, and power-wise, it falls somewhere between the two. The 1.9 was 110 kilowatts, the 3 litre is 140 kilowatts, and the 2.2 is 120 kilowatts with performance and torque to match. And just because this is a car with a few dollars ripped out of it doesn't mean you don't get choices. You still get the choice of a dual cab pickup body or a cab chassis, and there's even 2 or 4-wheel drive. So, plenty of choice. With its new 8-speed transmission and stop-start technology fitted, the bigger 2.2 litre engine is claimed to be slightly more frugal than the 1.9 it replaces. But that's really splitting hairs, because the actual fuel saving is fractions of a litre per 100 kilometres and is only noticeable on the official test. In the real world, there won't be any discernible difference. So, bank on using between 9 and 10 litres per 100 kilometres in normal highway running. The lighter 2-wheel drive versions should be a little less thirsty than the 4x4 variants. As such, the BT-50 XS with its 76 litre tank is going to have a usable range of around 800 kilometres. Driving the BT-50 it's interesting because the previous XS had a 1.9 litre engine. This car's got a 2.2, still well short of the 3 litre in the main event, BT-50. But you wouldn't say it's underpowered. What you would say though is that they've pulled a bit of sound deadening out of this car, again for cost and weight savings. But the motor is quite noisy and it's quite diesely. You know, you get in some modern diesels and you go, oh, it's pretty refined. It could almost be a petrol. Not this one. This is a diesel, and it tells you straight away. It's worse with the snorkel fitted, the optional snorkel, because all you can hear then is the turbocharger and the intake air swirling around in there, and it's quite distracting. But I do like, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute, I do like the automatic transmission, which is now an 8-speeder, and it upshifts beautifully. You can feel it, but you can hear it more than feel it. But it's just such a syrupy gearbox. And even when you're rolling down to a stop, you can just perceive that it's shifting back in case you need to get out of town in a hurry. Like if you need to dodge something that's come through an intersection or something, it's going to be in the right gear for you. Very clever. And like at this price, this is one of the better gearboxes in the 4-wheel drive ute market. I suppose the biggest criticism I would have of this car, if I had to spend a lot of time in it, is the ride quality. Clearly, it's set up to tow a dirty big trailer. It's also set up to take the best part of a ton in the tray, which means that the rear end in particular is reasonably stiff. And I think there are other utes that probably do this better, the mix of ride quality and cargo hauling ability. I think there are some manufacturers that strike a slightly better balance. It's not awful, but I think over time, particularly unladen as this vehicle is, over time you might just get a little bit tired of the constant jiggling. It's actually okay if you tackle bumps one at a time, or if the bumps come at you one at a time. You can feel the suspension work and settle, and then it'll hit another bump and it'll work and it'll settle. It's when you get a lot of bumps happening all at once that live axle leaf sprung rear end gets not confused, but it just gets out of its comfort zone, and it's got too much to do, and it can't control everything all at once. And that's when it's at its worst. And it does feel quite jiggly. It can actually, on a gravel road going uphill on some bumps, you will actually lose a bit of traction. Yes, it's got traction control. That's not the point. Now, a lot of utes are like that, but this one's probably a little more susceptible to that sort of behaviour. The safety story is pretty good here, thanks to increased awareness of occupational health and safety, which now extends to the vehicles workers use day to day. So Mazda has included full-length side curtain airbags on dual cab models and front and knee airbags in the cabin. You also get the latest driver aids such as blind spot monitoring, autonomous emergency braking, lane keeping assistance, rear cross-traffic alert and a reversing camera. Best of all, those aids have been calibrated sensibly and thoughtfully, so they're not the distractions they can be in some of the Mazda's competition. Again, for the full story, check out the written review at carsguide.com.au. Service intervals for the BT-50 are every 15,000 kilometres or 12 months, whichever comes first. And there's cap price servicing on offer at around $2,200 or $2,300 for the first 5 years, depending on whether your BT-50 is a 4x2 or a 4x4. Warranty is the usual Mazda 5 years unlimited kilometre deal, and there's 5 years of roadside assistance thrown in as well. The big question is how fleets will react to the BT-50 option of a smaller engine and a bit less standard equipment. While there's nothing like a fatal flaw in the design or execution of this car, the smaller engine will not tackle heavy towing jobs on the drawbar as easily as its larger engined stablemate. Neither does the basic Mazda package offer a class-leading experience in what is an increasingly tough market sector, especially with new competition from China arriving almost every week, or so it seems. The reality is that Mazda dropped the 4x4 versions of its first XS model a few years back after a very short time on sale, quoting a lack of demand as the reason. But now they're back. Maybe the market has changed in 2025, or maybe it's muddier than ever, and I'm not brave enough to even take a stab at answering that one.